A reading from John O'Donohue's Beauty, Rediscovering the True Sources of Compassion, Serenity, and Hope. Beauty is quietly woven through our days. Beauty does not linger, it only visits. Yet beauty's visitation affects us and invites us into its rhythm. It calls us to feel, think, and act beautifully in the world, to create and live a life that awakens the beautiful. A life without delight is only half a life. Lest this be construed as a plea for decadence or a self-indulgence that is blind to the horrors of the world, we should remember that beauty does not restrict its visitations only to those whom fortune or circumstances favor. Indeed, it is often the whispers and glimpses of beauty which enable people to endure on desperate frontiers. Even, and perhaps especially, in the bleakest times, we can still discover and awaken beauty. These are precisely the times when we need it most. Nowhere else can we find the joy that beauty brings. Joy is not simply the fruit of circumstance. We can choose to be joyous, independent of what is happening around us. The joyful heart sees and reads the world with a sense of freedom and graciousness. Despite all the difficult turns on the road, it never loses sight of the world as a gift. Welcome to today's Heart Lift. I'm Janelle, and I'm so happy to welcome back the beautiful, remarkable Rhonda Barney. We were so blessed to have Rhonda in part one. And we were talking about her beautiful new book, Dear Susan, Letters of Comfort and Hope for Women Facing a Life-Changing Illness. And as we learned in our conversation, her words, the words that have poured out of Rhonda's heart, are really applicable to so many areas of struggle and pain and despair. I don't know about you, but the conversation, the words that Rhonda prayed and read over us, and the words that were shared deeply affected me. I haven't stopped thinking about them all week. And Rhonda invited us to think about, to consider our relationship with our body and how are we doing with that? So I wonder, how are you doing with that? Did you stop and take some time to consider, to listen to your body, to see what it might be saying to you? I have, and it is speaking, and it has actually spoken quite loud this week. And so in part two today, we continue our conversation with Rhonda, and it is so good. And we are so blessed to have her presence here with us to help us frame the more difficult aspects of our life. And also, as she reminded us that no matter what is going on around us, just like the words of John O'Donohue, no matter how bleak, no matter how dark, no matter how difficult, we can still look for beauty in the simplest of things. And I think you'll hear that again in today's conversation. So let's welcome back Rhonda.
Sometimes the story we tell ourselves is not really true. Sometimes the story others tell about us is not really true. Here on today's Heart Lift with Janelle, we are going to learn how to rewrite our story. So pick up your favorite pen and journal, grab a cup of something delicious, and start your heart-lifting journey towards living a meaningful life.
And I wish that I had known how to do that when mine were littles, but we're navigating that now in life when they're in their 30s. You know, what we always like to say is when we know better, we do better.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, so
Absolutely.
So you shared, you felt like a burden. Thank you for sharing that you shifted from shaming yourself in that shaming language, which I think is such a huge critical piece of what we're bringing to the table today. How then, Rhonda, did you make your way to this grounding process of journaling? Were you always a journaler? Were you always someone that put pen to paper to process your emotions, or how'd you get there?
Yeah, that's a great question. Honestly, I fell into it because I found that when I would pray, my mind was just everywhere, and I knew that there was power in writing, and that it could be very cathartic. And so I had decided, literally in my college years, before I was ever a therapist or anything, that I would start to write my prayers. And so I journal my prayers. I literally have years of journaled prayers. And I was doing it so that I could literally focus, and keep
same here. I always write to dear God or dear Lord Jesus.
Yes.
Or dear Father.
Dear Father.
Whoever I needed at that time. Oh, Holy Spirit.
Yes. Yes. And so that, like when in the mornings or whenever I would journal and pray, in fact, my journal is right here, right beside me right now. It's just it's like an attachment,
Yeah.
but, And so with these particular letters, what had happened was I had been in a bookstore literally right after, another diagnosis, a head injury, actually. And that had been just incredibly debilitating for a really long time. And so, I thought I'd gotten back on my feet, and then wham. And
here we go again.
Yes, here we go again. And I was angry, man. I was like, all right, when is enough?
Enough. Oh my gosh.
This isn't even.
Are you serious?
Right. Yeah.
I remember following in a nor'easter behind my mom's ambulance and going, I know you're not serious.
Yes.
This is a joke, right? Right, God? This is a joke.
Yeah.
Here we go again. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that.
This can't be real. This
can't be real because it doesn't feel real. It feels like you're caught in a really, really bad dream.
Yes.
Okay.
So during that time, I couldn't journal. I couldn't use my eyes. I couldn't look right, left, up, or down. I couldn't read. I couldn't write. I couldn't look at screens. I couldn't drive. I couldn't look at my phone. I couldn't watch TV. I mean, I was literally, I couldn't tolerate any light. So I was in darkness for months and months and months.
It's prophetic, I would think.
It was very scary and very difficult. And with that, God did bring avenues of healing that were just miraculous. And one of the very first times the actual very first time I drove after this episode or this diagnosis, I was standing in a Christian bookstore and I overheard a conversation. And that conversation, the woman was really emotional. And so it wasn't trying to eavesdrop or anything, but
So you're a licensed clinical social worker. That's what you do. I do the same. I'm like, stop listening, move away. You don't need to be involved, or you do. Sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't.
Yes, completely. Absolutely. And so basically what I heard her say was, my best friend is going in for a bone marrow transplant next week, and she will be in isolation for 30 days, and I won't be able to go see her. No one can see her. And I had just come out of my own isolation for months. And so she said, I want to send a book. And it just so happened I'd worked in a bone marrow transplant. And so I knew the smells. I could, as soon as she said that, I was like, I know exactly what this woman is getting ready to experience. And my heart just, and she said, I want to send a book that would, since I can't go to comfort her, that would bring comfort and peace to her while she's going through this. And I remember the clerk looking at this woman and saying, I can't think of anything. And I thought, I had just gone through my own experiences. And I thought, honestly, I can't think of anything either. Like in that bookstore, I could think of parenting. I could think of
Christian living, marriage, family,
disciplines. I could think of, all the things, but to speak to a woman who is fighting for her life, I couldn't think of anything. And so I remember driving home and really being just angry, being upset. And
Mhm.
I was talking out loud and I was just like, God, there should
Good.
be a book,
Yes.
And then
He's
I
like,
just felt like, yeah, I felt like God was like, so why don't you write it?
that's exactly right.
I was like, well, I don't,
because,
that's
because,
not,
because, because.
yes, I had a list of reasons of why it wasn't a good fit or a good idea. And so it was one of those things. So that was the summer of 2017. And then
Oh,
I couldn't get that question out of my head.
good.
Why don't you
I'm
write it?
glad.
So finally, the summer of 2018, I literally sat down in my backyard with my journal, and I
Mm.
thought, okay, I'm going to start writing because I feel like this is what I'm supposed to do, but I have no idea what I'm doing. And honestly, there's a little sarcasm there too, like almost
Mhm.
like, God, I'm going to do this to just kind of show you that
Let's just see
I don't know what I'm doing. You know
how
what I mean?
unfit I am for this calling.
Yes, I'm going to do it to show you that you got the wrong, And
I love the way you talk to God because I talk to him the same way. We are kindred. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to show you.
yeah.
That's fantastic.
So,
And he's like, I'm right here.
I know, right?
I'm ready to watch you unfold.
Yes.
So good.
So, and
So good.
he's so gracious. And
I know.
so I sat there and I thought, well, what would I say to this woman? And I guess as a therapist, I just wanted to walk in, like I don't know, I wanted to acknowledge her emotional and spiritual pain. And so
Yeah.
and as a sister in Christ, not just even a therapist, just as a friend. And so I just started with, and my goal was 30 letters or more because she was going to be in the transplant for 30.
Oh, what a beautiful framework. Right.
And and so I
And
just
Susan, so did you just like,
well, that's a cool part of the story.
all right,
So,
tell us. We're dying to know who Susan is. Because I told, I said to you before we began, I know I'm going to call you Susan. And I haven't. So I'm very proud of myself.
Yes. So I all of a sudden it took a form of a letter as I wrote. And it was, dear friend, today you feel like you're a burden to your family, or today you feel fear, or today. And so each letter is, I've read the one, sort of addresses kind of, hopefully my desire was to unpack that emotion, whatever it is, feeling
all the things you had felt.
Yes, feeling forgotten. It was very cathartic. Man, there was, I have to tell you, Janelle, like every letter was bathed in tears because it was coming just from the depths of my heart. And so anyway, as I wrote, I finally was like, these are letters. I was like, God, if I'm going to write a letter, I need a name. And so the name Susan just kept coming to me.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, okay. So I just started writing Dear Susan. In fact, my family would laugh at me. I was like, I'm going to go in the backyard and write to Susan, like they were just like, okay, mom, all right, go write to Susan, whoever that is.
But I love it because, I think you might know of narrative therapy. And so you do build an alter ego, or you do create someone to make as a character. So I love it. It's very, very, very cathartic. It's a very strong tool in healing. I love it. So Susan.
Yes. And so, so as I'm writing these letters to Susan, I completed that, pretty much completed them. And that was then by the end of the summer of 2018. And I had thought many times about self-publishing or traditional, like I had thought about publishing, but it just nothing seemed right. And then finally, during the pandemic, right as the world was shutting down, literally, it was May, the end of May, beginning of June. And a dear friend of mine, she texted me and she said, I am going to stay in quarantine because a dear friend from college was just sent home on hospice with a stage 4 diagnosis. And she's going to be isolated and only her husband is with her. And I want to be someone that can go in and relieve her husband and without them worrying about
beautiful friendship. Wow.
Yes. And I just said to her, I was like, that you have no idea the gift that you are giving her. Like there's nothing more, it's just that you just want to be with her. And so basically then I just said, I would love to pray for your friend. And she said, okay, her name is Susan.
Oh gosh. I know when I read that, I was just like,
I
Gotta be kidding me.
yes,
I have chills everywhere.
Yeah,
I
will
do.
never. Yeah, I will never forget where I was standing. I literally was texting and I almost dropped my phone. Like it was just
yes,
this moment
what
of
a God-breathed moment. What do they call them? God wings. Just a prophetic unfolding. That's just the way I that was one of my questions. What on earth happened to you when you heard her name? Okay. So please tell me you rushed to get that published.
Well, I what I did was I told my friend, I said, I have this whole journal full of letters. And I said, they're to Susan. However, I was like, I would never pretend or presume to know what your friend is experiencing. I've never been on hospice. I've never been sent home with the stage 4 diagnosis. Like I can't even I wouldn't even presume. But if there is something in these letters, I'm more than willing to share them. But honestly, they felt inadequate. Like
I'm sure.
I just, and so,
that's very humble posture. That has to be hard earned from your own crucible, Rhonda. That kind of humility, I think, is that which is born of a crucible and a brokenness. I don't think you can get that any other way. So I appreciate you continuing your perseverance in your own struggle, but then to put that down on paper and then to have that kind of stance that, if this could help her, oh boy. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I think with suffering, there's this sense of, I don't know, there's a sense of that it's so private and personal.
Yes.
And it is so unique to the person who is experiencing and allowing them to have room to feel what they feel and not imposing on them what I've experienced or what I felt. And so, yeah, there was just.
But your letters became a safe space to me. They became from what I can hear, I have not held them yet. I know I'm going to start going out back because it's getting springtime and start writing my own letters because you're encouraging me to do so. I think it's a great way to process your suffering. I think it's beautiful. So did she take them?
Yes. So my friend mentioned it to Susan and Susan was like, I am supposed to read those letters. So one by one, I took them out of my journal. So she introduced us over email because obviously I couldn't go meet her. And one by one, I would take them out of my journal and edit them the best that I knew how. And I would send them to her. And
oh my gosh, what a gift.
It was just beautiful. And my friend and Susan and I, my friend's name is Autumn. So Autumn, Susan, and I stayed on the same email together. And it just became this literal sacred space of I would send a letter and then Susan would respond saying, yes, you gave me language for what I felt in this way, or thank you for, and yes, that was my experience too. And this is how I experienced it. So it was this.
Then there was the sharing of story and the sharing of, because there was a trustworthiness even though within that beautiful triangle, that's a beautiful triangle.
Yeah. It was sacred. It was
very sacred. Yeah. I've never heard the birth of a book as powerful as this. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. It's like, it's almost a Tuesdays with Maury, the last lecture, that same profound, organic.
Yeah. Very organic.
Very God breathed. Thank you for being obedient, Rhonda. My goodness. So did that, I'm thinking that might have developed into, so then how did this book become a book? I do want to.
Yes. So this happened all summer. So I would write the letters and she would, respond. And then by the end of the summer, her condition was worsening. And she at some point said, Rhonda, you have to publish these letters. She said, I was an ICU nurse and I've seen a lot of death and dying, and nothing has prepared me for my journey like these letters. And
Rhonda,
she said, you have to publish them. And so I said, will you write my foreword?
Oh my gosh, I can't stop having chills. Oh my word. Yeah.
So she she wrote the foreword. It's beautiful. It's it's the first thing that the reader will read. And
Oh, I can't wait.
Immediately you get to meet Susan, and immediately you get to hear her words. It's the first thing in the book. And
my goodness.
And then, so she then passed in November of 2020. And knowing that this book would be published, because I started the publishing process before she passed.
Was that a traditional journey for you? We do have a lot of aspiring authors and writers in our audience as well. Was that traditional self-publishing? Hybrid?
It was a hybrid.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, so it was a hybrid. And what I was able to do was basically get coaching as I went through the whole process. So it is, and then they took care of aspects of it.
Which is a dream.
Some of the interior design and all of that. Of course, I had a say in everything that happened. So it's still very much my book. Even what I loved about that process was, even though there were editors, like I had the final say.
Yes, that's a beautiful aspect of hybrid publishing for sure. Yes. Yeah.
So,
fantastic. So it is coming to us. Drum roll.
Yay. So pre-orders are available.
Yeah, pre-order now. Get your Kindle. Get it all. I pre-ordered the book and the Kindle, and I'm sure I'm going to order many more. I feel like I just want to drop them off at rehab centers. Like my mom was in so many. I can see this book just unfolding into being such a ministry of help. So Rhonda, I do not want to go. I want to talk to you forever, but I would love to have you back sometime to continue our conversation. And I did ask you before we started if you would read a beautiful excerpt, if you would, in closing. And it's called Let's Dance. So that's kind of near and dear to my heart as a dancer most of my life. I would love to hear the words. Give us a little understanding of what's behind this particular letter to Susan.
Okay. I had felt, how we started our conversation today. I was always just waiting for it to get back to normal so that I could really live my life. I was holding my breath and I literally felt half dead. I somehow my days didn't matter as much, or that I was just partially alive. And so that's what this letter is, steps into. And it says, "Dear Susan, you feel your life has stopped. It's as if someone pushed the pause button and your life has been suspended. You're in a holding pattern, waiting for things to get back to normal. You're waiting for the pain, the treatment, the symptoms to stop. And when all of this is over, you can get back to your real life and begin to thrive again." I remember thinking, once I get past this, I will be able to move beyond merely existing to again start fully living. It was as if I was holding my breath until it was over. Inside, my heart felt half dead, as if I wasn't completely alive. I just wanted my real life back. Then one day, I read a quote from Vivian Green that stopped me in my tracks. It completely shifted my perspective, for which I'm so grateful. I bought a sign with the quote on it and made it my daily mantra. And the quote is, "Life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain." I repeated those words in my mind and asked myself, is it possible to dance in the middle of the storm? Is it possible to find joy in the midst of suffering? How would that change my life? I came to understand dancing didn't mean ignoring difficult emotions and only acknowledging the pleasant. No, dancing is the audacity to embrace the messiness and live it all. Taste it all, feel it all. The joy, the pain, loss, and beauty. Both joy and sorrow are part of my real life, and I don't want to deny myself the opportunity to live my full story. Yes, living every messy drop of it is what it means to dance in the rain. I remember the day I made a conscious decision to not merely survive, but purposely live my full story. I realized I didn't have to think of my circumstances as a time to close my eyes and hold my breath. This was my real life. And although not what I would have chosen, I didn't want to miss it. These days were still my days, and I had a choice as to how I would participate in them. I might have felt half dead, but I had a beating heart. I was alive, and I could live as such. Looking back, I can see how those days quickly turned into months, and months became precious years. If I had not learned to dance, I would have missed out on priceless moments with my husband, growing children, extended family, and friends. I didn't dance perfectly, but I stopped waiting to dance. And as I breathed, I experienced the beauty of living with my heart fully alive. Oh, dear friend, I know there is a huge storm, and the pain can cast a dark shadow, coloring everything gray. But I encourage you to open your eyes and see the full spectrum in your life. The rain doesn't tell your full story. There are spectacular hues of red, yellow, blue, and green. Let yourself feel and experience the loss and the joy. It's all a part of the beauty of your life. Don't deny yourself your full story. Look up and see the full rainbow of color. With a heart of love for you, Rhonda.
Just take a moment with that. Wow. So powerful. I think it links so incredibly to the one you read to us before, because what I hear you leaving me and leaving us here in this heart-lifting community with is that even if the whole, like you originally said your body, like even if your body's declining, your body's falling apart, whatever, your spirit, your soul, your mind, your inside you can be at rest and at peace and calm. It's hard won, hard fought, I know. But that's what you're calling us and inviting us into. And for that, I am so grateful. So grateful, Rhonda. And we do want to connect with you. So I know that you have an incredible community. Would you tell us about it?
Yes, absolutely. I think one of my biggest desires in this is for women to feel heard and seen and understood, and not to feel alone. And so I am starting a membership where women can come in and just be seen and heard. And I've written an online course of just sort of it takes the letters and it just sort of whittles it down to what are the 5 things. And it's called the Beautiful Life Blueprint. And so,
that's so amazing. I love that.
Yeah. So members,
where can we get this? Where do we find it?
Yes, it's at rondabarney.com. And right now there's a waiting list for the membership. And as a member, you get the online course. It's just part of my gift. Or you can go on and purchase the online course just if you don't want to be a part of the membership. But I just want to hold space. That's my hold space and give people monthly encouragement and videos and just continue to provide the space.
I guess I'm on the waiting list. Sugarfoot.
That we would love to have you. That'd be fantastic.
Yes. Well, I'll get on the waiting list. I will pray at the right time. Yeah, Ronda Barney. It'll be in the show notes for sure. And it's Rhonda without an H, RONDA, just to make it difficult, and BARNEY.com. And I will make that available to everyone. And is it called Doors of Hope? Is that your community? Or is that in a transition?
Yes. I have had a community called A Dose of Hope.
Dose of Hope.
It's just a free community that people can come in and I just post from time to time, just encouraging things. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm so thankful. So hopefully we will talk with you again. And until then, our prayers are with you, because I have no doubt that is going to be one very much requested membership. So thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me today. It's been a heart lift for me. So thank you for letting me share.
Our joy.
Thanks for listening today. It was great having you here. For even more great content and resources, please join the Stronger Everyday online community at JanelleRaridan.com. Always remember, you, my friend, have value, worth, and dignity.